Today on an all-new Dr. Phil.
I'm married to a monster.
What I want from you is a little damn trust. I haven't anybody in how many years? Look at me, lady.
A violent marriage.
I broke her nose.
I've hit him back.
He's pushed you out of a moving car when you were pregnant.
Has this family on edge.
Literally on the verge of a nervous breakdown.
I said mean and hateful things just to calm this down.
So just to calm it down, you said, I will murder you.
Yes, sir.
What in the hell are you thinking?
The day before the show, security was called.
I hit him with a glass. He was choking me out.
And you thought it would be a good idea to pull a knife. Let's do it.
Have a good show, everybody. Here we go.
This is a safe place to talk about hard things.
Stand by. We'll count you down.
I'm trying to be an emotional compass and point you in the right direction.
5, 4.
I am not giving up on you. Thank you. You know, Cindy and Trevor have been married for 16 years. They've been together for 20, but they've been married for 16. They run a yacht servicing business, have 3 kids, and claim they are well respected in their community. But behind closed doors, they say it's a very different story. Cindy alleges that during their 16-year marriage, Trevor has pushed her out of a moving car, broken her nose, and even beaten her after a partial hysterectomy surgery. She also claims that the police have been called at least 15 times to deal with his rages because she does not juggle the kids, home, and their business the way he wants. Now, Trevor admits to hitting his wife and saying he wants to kill her, but claims it's mostly Cindy's fault for constantly mouthing off, accusing him of cheating and creating a chaotic home life that he calls a soup sandwich, whatever the hell that is. Cindy claims she's terrified of her own husband, but stays because, guess, she loves him. They both want to know if their marriage is worth saving. Take a look.
To the outside world, we do seem like the perfect family.
Cindy and I have our own yacht service business.
We have 3 beautiful children. They're my world. In reality, that perfect family could not be further from the truth.
Our family life is like a soup sandwich. You can't do anything with it, just falls apart.
My husband is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Honestly, hon, anybody knows how to wash a glass. Anybody. Your daughter could do it, okay? Do it right or don't do it at all.
I'm married to a monster. Life inside our home is complete chaos. If I upset Trevor, he'll start yelling, he'll start insulting me. He calls me a dumbass, stupid ass piece of. He said basically I'm just a life support for
Cindy's extremely hard-headed, and it's very hard to get through to her sometimes. The only time I'm heard is if I'm almost like screaming. What I want from you is a little trust. I haven't anybody in how many years? How many people have I
don't know.
Look at me. I can get lady.
He'll say shut the up or I'll make you shut up. I'm terrified of him. The kids are too.
She doesn't need to be afraid of me at all. I'm not generally a violent person. I don't know anyone in the world that would be afraid of me.
Trevor can be a very, very violent person. When I was 8 months pregnant with our first child, we got in a huge altercation. I was pushed out of the car while it was moving. I was rushed to the hospital. I started having contractions. Thank God I and the baby were okay. I have fought back. He'll just say, this is what you got, bring it on. Come on, you want to do this?
She's hit me over the head with a lamp, blood all over the place. I've been hit with a curling iron.
Once we got in a fight and I wouldn't back down.
She was hitting me repeatedly. I was trying to get her to stop hitting me, had her forearms. I headbutted her nose, screaming at her to please stop, just stop. I broke her nose.
It was totally my fault. He broke my nose. I egged him on. I feel like I got so. The last time Trevor physically abused me was a few days ago. He grabbed me by the neck. He pinned me by his knees and sat on me. I was in excruciating pain because I had surgery on my stomach. about 8 days prior. Trevor just mocked me. He said, wow, yeah, I know, I'm beating you. He said if I just obeyed him, we wouldn't have these problems. I yelled at him and said, you're abusive ass. And he went and smacked me in the face and said, now that's abusive.
Okay.
It sounds sick if I say I love him, but we have a lot of time together. And
20 years.
3 beautiful kids. My kids are my world. I wrote into you because I'm literally on the verge of a nervous breakdown. I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. How much is too much? Is there a point where enough's enough and too much is too much? Because right now, what you've said is he slapped you in the face, he's headbutted you, he's pushed you out of a moving car when you were 8 months pregnant, he's attacked your son, he's called you every vile name in the book, he's threatened your life, he's choked you. Is there a line that he could cross? Or does that line not exist?
I keep saying each time when our arguments have gone farther and gone farther that this is it. I don't want to be portrayed as, a domestic violence victim or, somebody that's, a battered wife. I don't want to be pictured as that. I have hit him back. I'm mouthy. I can push him.
So you don't want to be portrayed as a battered wife? Mm-mm. He did headbutt you and break your nose. Mm-hmm. You think it's your fault, at least partially. I just want to know. I want to know what you think.
I think I'm mouthy. I think being mouthy has pushed him.
So all we got to do is if I just get your mouth under control, then everything will be okay. Then he wouldn't do things like grab your hair and threaten to kill you like he did 3 years after he headbutted you. Because in 2005, this affidavit, Cindy states that her and Trevor were in an argument that turned physical when Trevor grabbed her hair and threatened to kill her. Trevor did not have any weapons or other instruments on his person at the time. Officer says, I did not observe any marks on Cindy. Cindy also states that Trevor grabbed her son's arm and bent his wrist back and stated that he would break his other arm. He had broken his right arm earlier in a skateboarding accident. I observed a small scratch on his left wrist where Trevor grabbed him. Cindy states that both her and Trevor had been drinking. I observed margarita glasses on the table on the patio.
I don't know what to say.
Cindy's husband, Trevor, admits that he has hit Cindy in the past, but claims that it has been either in self-defense or because of her constant mouthiness, which she tells us that she believes. She says, I provoke him because I am mouthy. Well, he's here, and so we're going to talk to him next, and we're going to get his point of view about all of this right after the break.
There's no person on the planet that can push my buttons like Cindy.
I'm so angry and so mad, and the biggest thing I've learned is I can hurt with words.
If you were in charge of the laundry,
My God, you're like Hitler.
she'll push for 3 straight hours, and then I'll finally fight back.
And later, has he tried to stab you with a knife?
I did pull out a pocket knife. I was defending her.
And you thought it would be a good idea to pull a knife?
Oh, there's been times when it's gone too far and it's gotten physical.
Despite everything Trevor has done to me, I still love him. I'm afraid one day Trevor will go too far.
I'm not saying that I would kill my family. I don't want to be the couple on the morning news where you see the terrible, terrible things happen to the whole household and you don't know who did what to who.
Cindy admits that she still loves her husband, Trevor, despite their 16-year marriage being full of screaming fights, calls to the police, bruises, a broken nose. Trevor says Cindy loves to play the martyr and is badgering, controlling, and constantly snooping through his things. He claims Cindy knows how to push his buttons, and that is the cause of many of their altercations.
Other than go to work, what do you do to help in the house?
Cindy goes out of her way to just make me miserable. There's no person on the planet that can push my buttons like Cindy. She knows what buttons to push and exactly how to manipulate me.
Trevor blames me for all of our problems.
I don't want to say she's a crazy bitch, but she leads towards the pathway of crazy.
As his wife, he expects me to be obedient and subservient.
If you were in charge of the laundry and
Oh,
all
you
the
in the laundry.
drawers,
My
you
God, you're like
brought it
Hitler.
up.
I'm so angry and so mad, and I feel like I can't do anything to harm him back. And the biggest thing I've learned is I can hurt with words.
I do story time homework, baths, showers, and try and get everybody in bed. So if a glass isn't done right, or your socks aren't done, oh my God.
She'll push for 3 straight hours, bitching, arguing, yelling, and then I'll finally fight back. If I didn't bring the money home, we'd be having the same conversation.
I feel like if I didn't push his buttons and drive him crazy, that he wouldn't have laid his hands on me.
Cindy's very controlling. She watches my every move.
I try to control how he is.
Cindy's obsessed with keeping tabs on me. She always thinks I'm cheating on her. What I want from you is a little trust. Look at me. I can get lady.
Okay, Trevor.
I can get.
I do go through his phone. I see who he calls.
Cindy's lack of trust starts a lot of our fights. It seems like she's addicted to arguing and fighting, whether it's adrenaline, just addicted to it. Like, just, it's what we do. Can't stop.
What do you think about the conversation we've had this far?
I'm a monster. Nobody in their right mind would strike their wife. Nobody would push anybody, especially 8 months pregnant, out of a moving car. I don't exactly even remember that. I don't.
Do you dispute that
There's some of the
you've-
things
that
in
you've
this-
headbutted her?
No, sir, I don't dispute
Do
that.
you dispute that you've slapped her in the face?
No, sir, I don't.
Do you dispute that you've grabbed her by the throat and thrown her on the bed?
No, sir.
Do you dispute that you pushed her out of the moving car when she was 8 months pregnant?
I honestly do not remember.
The battery on the pregnant woman.
I understand what you're saying. I remember the charges. I don't remember that night. I don't have any idea. I know you do. I'm sorry.
Do you dispute that you've been arrested 7 or 8 times
No, sir.
for domestic violence?
No, sir.
What do you say to yourself when you decide, here's a good idea, I think I'll headbutt her?
I was getting attacked for at least 4 hours that evening, verbally. And I finally got up and said, you want to fight? Let's fight. And I was doing the finger. I don't know if I smacked that or this, that. She went blank, started hitting and punching me. And I grabbed her forearms. I went to hit her on the forehead, just like, stop, stop. And I hit her nose. That fight was over. I stopped at a baby shower to drop off a gift. It was a co-ed shower.
That I wasn't told about.
Come on.
What about every time you travel, the phones are off?
I cannot listen to your ridiculing when I'm out of town about what a piece of garbage I am, how you need to do this, you need to do
don't
that,
even
you need
call
to
the
quit your...
kids.
She thought I was in New York. I guess sleeping with everybody there.
His phone was turned off. My son got in a car accident.
You know the number to 911.
You're their father.
I
Your
should be
son was
notified.
in an accident.
He was fine. You
It's
have
just
to,
sick.
You have to man up and handle your kids. My biggest fear, and a lot of the reasons I've never left, is because they'll eat each other.
Eat each other. Okay, that's lovely. Do you know how ignorant that sounds?
Our children run our home. They've never been told no. They've never been grounded. They don't know what that is.
You scream at them.
I've learned to say the most absurd, hateful things in the world to my children to control them. And that's abusive, and I know it.
So just to calm it down, you said, I will murder you.
Yes, sir.
All of us.
You'll murder the whole family and go to jail. That's your idea of bringing calm to the family. And later,
First thing you've said that makes sense.
That's the first thing she said that made sense? Well, that's 1 for her,
Sorry.
0 for you. You keep saying that things like that's abusive and I know it. And
I don't know how to
you're
change
sitting
it.
here describing this in this monotonic voice, and I just feel anger seething beneath the surface so
Oh, yeah.
strong
Oh, yeah.
that you just want to explode. So I wrote down some of the things that you say, and I have to tell you, I'm really concerned about this. I tried to headbutt her to get her to stop. I accidentally broke her nose with my head. Okay, accident. If you ever treat her that way again, I will maim you. This is what you said to your son.
Yes, sir.
If you ever treat her that way again, I will maim you. I will murder everyone at the table and go to jail where it is peaceful. I'd have to fake my death to get away from Cindy, and trust me, I have thought about it. I saw a news story about a guy shooting up his house and himself and thought, this could be my family. Yep, somebody finally had enough. I don't know if she was afraid that I was going to kill her. I probably said I was. What in the hell are you thinking? You're saying, I will murder everyone at the table and go to jail. So, Dad, tell me under what theory that makes sense.
None.
Tell me under what theory you're provoked into that.
I will murder everyone at the table and go to jail where it's peaceful.
That happened yesterday at the hotel.
It was a restaurant setting. My 12-year-old and I were sitting at the table waiting for my 19-year-old, my wife, and my 6-year-old daughter to show up. Joseph wouldn't stop at the table, and I asked him 5, 6, 7, 10 times, please stop, just stop. Let's just have lunch and get through this, just stop. And he kept on and on and on.
Joseph will keep going on, but there's no excuse for
You're making excuses for this?
Hold on.
No, I was very
Seriously?
upset. No, what I'm trying to say is Joe will keep going and he snaps. No, I'm not making an excuse for it, but I'm trying to get
Yes,
the
you
picture.
are.
No, I wouldn't. No.
Sin, I'm all right.
No, it's not all right that
Like
that
I
happened.
said, I have said mean and hateful things just to calm this down. I would at that
So just
point.
to calm it down, you said, I will murder you.
Yes, sir.
All of us. That's why Joe was.
You'll
Yes,
murder
sir.
the whole family and go to jail. That's your idea of bringing calm to the family.
I don't know what else to do. Can't you see that? I'm at
Yes, I can.
at my wit's end with how on earth.
Yeah, I
Do-
can see. You
his-
apparently have run out of all options when you're threatening to murder your family.
Yes, sir. I don't rehearse stuff like this. I don't try to be a monster. I was just trying to get through lunch.
Yeah, you know, the sad part about it is that you have in your head a rationale and a justification for the things you do. There are some absolutes that you need to understand, my friend, and one of them is you never put your hands on a woman in anger, ever, period. I don't care what it is, I don't care why. If she's badgering you, if she's hitting you, if she's throwing things at you, you use these, you leave. You get out the door, you get in your car, you drive away. But under no theory do you ever put your hands on a woman in anger. You don't do that. You don't say those things, you don't do those things, because that renders you into being nothing but a loudmouth bully and a coward. You don't do that. If you don't have any more control than that, then there's something wrong with you, not them, and you need to deal with that.
Yes, sir.
Trevor told my producers that he and Cindy don't fight in front of the kids, and yet they pick up the tension. Well, we're going to meet their eldest son and see if he agrees with that. Plus, Trevor and Cindy didn't leave their violent behavior behind them back home. They brought it right here with them to Los Angeles, and a violent incident happened yesterday that caused the hotel security to be called. That's what we're talking about right here. We'll talk about that next. So this isn't all historical. This is right up until yesterday. We'll be right back.
Our chaotic marriage has definitely affected our children.
Trevor is verbally abusive to the children. He calls them retards, pieces of.
I have to scream at the kids.
He said my kids should live in fear so they don't grow up to become monsters. And I try to tell him he's raising monsters.
Closed captioning provided by
Is everybody prepared? We're the most prestigious black-owned real estate company in Texas.
Police have been called to our house countless times. I don't even know if I can count. Trevor has been arrested 8 or 9 times for domestic violence.
Cindy has dropped the charges against me.
I've dropped the charges against Trevor because I feel that a family should stay together no matter what. And I try to keep our family intact. The kids miss him. I'm always made to feel guilty for doing this to Dad.
We always make up.
I always think Trevor will change and things will get better.
This is our cycle. This is how we've been ever since day one.
Nothing has changed. This is my life.
Cindy says her husband of 16 years, Trevor, not only hits her and has broken her nose during arguments, but also terrorizes her children by screaming, yelling at them, and calling them vile names. But even worse, Cindy also claims Trevor has tried to fight their oldest son, Joe, and has chased him with knives. But Cindy believes she is partially to blame for her husband's behavior because she provokes him by nagging and not taking care of the kids in the house properly.
Our chaotic marriage has definitely affected our children. We don't fight in front of our children.
Dropping off, running the business, cleaning the house. Trevor says he doesn't yell at me in front of the kids. He's 100% lying.
So why should I have to change?
I know, clean the silverware better. The children have witnessed a lot of arguing, a lot of me being belittled.
Were you running around telling me all the time how much you do?
Everybody sees it.
It's all half-ass.
Women aren't thought highly of in the family. Trevor is verbally abusive to the children as well. He calls them retards, pieces of.
I have to scream at the kids. They won't listen to their mother. They won't clean their room. They won't do anything she says. She has no control.
He said my kids should live in fear so they don't grow up to become monsters. And I try to tell him he's raising monsters. He will get right in front of our oldest son's face and say he will maim him, that he will kill him. He's told our 12-year-old son not to get married, that if women didn't have a they would be hunted. Basically, that's all we're good for. Trevor says I'm raising a little bitch to our 6-year-old daughter. He doesn't hug the children. He doesn't love them. I give all the love. I feel so bad for the kids. Our kids are completely caught in the middle of all this. It breaks my heart.
My greatest fear is I've caused them more harm than good in their lifetime.
You're giving her the death stare here. What do you think about that?
That wasn't the death stare. Oh, I'm sorry. I've said a lot of things out of anger. I've done a lot of things out of anger.
Have you referred to your 6-year-old daughter as a little bitch?
Never to my daughter. I have said
to her
that to my wife.
About your daughter?
Yes, sir, I have.
Let me show you something. Your 6-year-old daughter drew a picture. She drew a picture of your house.
Her second one was all rainbow bright colors, and it had her family in it.
One interpretation of that is a very dark house.
Yes, sir.
With a roof on fire. Forget about Dr. Phil and Trevor. This is just dad to dad here. I got kids. Don't you think something's gone
way too far,
seriously wrong when you're referring to that precious little girl as a bitch?
She's beautiful. Yes, sir. I need help. My family needs help.
You're right about that. This is a family thing. Well, Cindy is afraid that her son Joe is turning into a carbon copy of you. But Joe sees things differently. I mean, let's hear what he has to say.
I've absolutely been raised in chaos. My house was more than stressful. I throw up from it, just from the stress. I've seen my dad fight. I've seen him punch holes in walls. My dad hit my mom. My dad has come at me with knives before. I feel like my dad's just cruel and evil. I feel like my dad definitely has something mentally wrong with him. Last night, he kept pushing me, and I mentally broke down. I started crying. He told me multiple times to die. If he wasn't my dad, I'd him up. I feel like my mom's more than terrified. There's not even a word to explain it. There is no point in them being married right now. What I want is how my life should have been. This moment in my life, I'm not just mad. I'm beyond angry with him. I honestly hate him with a passion.
What'd you want to say, Joe?
She keeps saying it's 50-50. It's not. And you shouldn't be treated like this. And what made me come up here today is me not knowing you getting pushed out of a car with me inside of you.
Has he tried to stab you?
Yes.
He pulled out a pocket knife and tried to stab you in the head.
I didn't try to stab him. I was trying to escort him off of my property.
Closed captioning provided by You say that your dad calls you an ass and a piece of and has told you multiple times to just die.
Yep.
Tells him all the time.
Tell me, from your point of view, what do you say to yourself when you hear that?
I know I'm not a piece of
No, you're not.
Yesterday at lunch was just wrong. I don't want to be told I'm going to be murdered. Like, what is that? What, like, telling your son you're going to murder him, beat him with a chair, and then you stand up at a table? I think I had enough yesterday. I think I literally, my limit was yesterday. And I'm going to be honest, I was afraid. When he stood up at the table, I was afraid, and that was my first reaction. And I hit him with a glass. You can't tell someone you're going to murder them and tell them all these threatening things and then get up at the table like you're going to do something. I'm going to defend myself.
So you say, I'll just murder you. You hit him in the head with a glass. You fall over backwards.
Oh.
This is at the hotel yesterday. You're the father here.
I know.
Has he tried to stab you?
Yes.
With a knife?
Yeah.
He pulled out a pocket knife and tried to stab you in the head.
Yep.
I didn't try to stab him. I was trying to escort him off of my property.
What's escorting?
Because I asked him to leave and get off the property. His mom and the kids were out front. I've been picked up over his head and body slammed on the floor. While he was choking me out, I was defending her. While he was choking me out, she kneeled on my chest and told me to get out of the house. I went to his room to defend her.
And you thought it would be a good idea to pull a knife?
When I asked him to leave my property, he's the one that ripped his shirt off and said, let's go, let's do this. I'm not going to fight him. I did pull out a pocket knife and asked him to leave the property. I did not try to stab him in the head.
Did you pull it out to not stab him?
I pulled it out to let him know I was serious enough that he needs to go now and that he's not going to put his hands on me because he'd already shoved me twice.
You're not a child on the playground. You're the father here. You're the adult.
You tell me what else I can do.
Walk away.
And leave her to fight him? She's the one that wanted him off the property. And I walk away and leave him there with her.
This is where I'm torn, Dr. Phil. Try and envision this. My son, who I love with my whole heart, and then there's my husband. He's becoming him. So when he's gone, he's doing all this to me too. But I know where it comes from, so I'm not going to turn my back on him. He wants me to turn my back on him. I'm not. I don't want to turn my back on my son.
That makes sense.
I don't. You told me that he can't come home and stay with us.
That's the first thing you've said that makes sense.
He's become you.
Well, that's the first thing she said that made sense. Well, that's 1 for her, 0 for you. Trevor claims it would be a good idea for him to leave Cindy because she would be a complete wreck. So he thinks he's doing her a favor by staying in this marriage. He said, it just wouldn't be a good idea. I need to stay because she needs him, I guess is the theory. So I'm going to start telling you what I think about this when we come back.
We have considered divorce in the past.
We had attorneys, we were at the courthouse, it was day 3, and we called it all off. I can't see leaving somebody who's going to just torture you for the rest of your natural-born life just because they can.
Trevor said if I ever divorce him, he would disappear. He would cut off all contact with me and the kids.
I'd have to fake my death to get away from Cindy, and I've thought about it.
I think this is just my life. I'm stuck.
Well, Cindy and Trevor are living in the middle of an abusive 16-year marriage. Cindy even claims she was pushed out of a moving car by her husband when she was 8 months pregnant. So why won't they just end this? Why have you stayed, and why are you staying?
I believe in the family staying together, the kids having a father, mother and father. I don't want to be another statistic. Just, you know, a single mother who's like, just, people feel sorry for me or look down on me, or how I'm going to take care of the kids too is a huge one. All financial towards me will be shut off, and all of it scares me.
Okay, so I'm hearing you say 3 things. One is you think families should stay together. 2 is you don't feel like you have the skill set to be self-sufficient because you've been a stay-at-home mom for this 20 years. And 3 is you're generally fearful that you won't be able to make it on your own because you've been in this situation for so long.
My kids are so damaged emotionally. I spend most of my time doing cleanup, explaining what's going on, or like overcompensating.
There are women all over America right now screaming at their television, you need to get out, you need to get out, you need to get out. I understand that's a whole lot easier said than done, okay, for a variety of reasons. Sit with that for just a minute. Why are you staying in a situation? Why have you, and why are you? If it's just such a hell where she grinds on you all the time, accuses you all the time, goes through your phone all the time, all on and on and on and on and on, why have you stayed in this situation?
I love her more than I've loved anything in my life.
Do you realize that you are demeaning her?
Yes, sir.
That you're damaging her?
Yes, sir.
And you realize the most powerful role model in any child's life is the same-sexed parent?
Yes, sir.
And that you are role modeling being abusive and intolerant and critical and violent? You realize that that's the model that you're creating for your son,
yes, sir.
Joe here. And, you know, Joe, whether you like it or whether you don't, you are impacted by who he is and what he does. And you have a choice about that. Trust me, you have a choice. My father was a horrible alcoholic, and I haven't had a drink in 45 years because I chose to go the other direction. You can do the same thing. You can choose to go the other direction. We'll be right back. You've been together 20 years, and you said this started out with some mild pushing and shoving. Then it got a little worse, and then it got a little worse. I want to be real clear to you and everybody watching. They never mean to do it. Let's take a look.
A woman tries to get away from the father of her child minutes before he sets her on fire.
He beat her so badly, her mother did not recognize her.
Every bone in my face had been broken. My face was ripped from the bone. He bit my ear off.
Tossed her around, choked her, headbutted her.
Why don't you just get a divorce and leave?
Because she's my soulmate.
I opened the door. He had a butcher knife in his hand. I didn't even really realize that I had lost my eye.
When you back a dog into a corner, he's going to bite.
Things you've spoken about, do you think they're reasonable? And that you wouldn't slap her if she didn't nag so much. You think that's a reasonable position? Yes. Do you think it is a reasonable position?
I really don't care what they say. Don't judge me.
Christopher Haney doused his wife, Audrey Mabry, with flammable liquid.
He tossed the candle at me, and I went up in flames.
He started chopping me in the back of the head with a machete.
The injuries, authorities say, were caused by this woman's husband. We begin to tell the tale of the deadly scene that unfolded here.
I am so scared of my boyfriend, Danny, that I allow him to severely abuse me on a daily basis.
I don't like this.
You're protected every second up there, so say exactly what you want to say to him.
I'm taking my life back from you. You don't deserve me.
This is a call for action. My wife, Robin, is probably the most outspoken national ambassador in fighting domestic violence through her foundation, When Georgia Smiled. And Robin, you work in the shelters, you work with the national organizations. This situation is volatile and can be headed for disaster in the blink of an eye.
Yes, that's true. All of the women there in the video we've talked to, and they've all said, I stayed because I loved him. I stayed because I really never thought it would get that bad. And every one of them did admit, I never thought of myself as a victim. So it's very important to recognize that you are a victim of domestic violence.
What you're doing, this anger is coming from the inside out, not a reaction to something on the outside. And you need to figure that out.
I don't know. But if she wants her exit strategy, I'll take care of her and the kids for the rest of my life, and I'll go.
I want to define negligence for you from the standpoint of Child Protective Services or the Department of Child and Family Services. Failing to protect a child from an abuser, failing to protect a child from a toxic and dangerous relationship makes you an abusive parent.
I know.
So I either have to implement a plan that I believe starts a change and takes that child out of harm's way, or I have to report that so someone will come in and do exactly that. Now, I'm going to offer you guys some help here. I want to introduce Margaret Aubin here. Now, she is the program director for an organization called Relationship Lifeline. And they offer a 4-day intensive couples retreat in Newport Beach, California. And more specifically, this program is for couples who want to discover what's not working in their lives, in their relationships, and why. Then you need to have a therapist that starts working with you. You need to have a therapist that starts working with you. Then you need to have a couple therapist that works with you in an ongoing basis when you finish this. And I will provide that through Doctor On Demand. And Doctor On Demand, as you know, is our company, and it allows you to be face-to-face with either a medical doctor or a licensed psychologist. You can do it right on your computer, your smartphone, or whatever. So that will follow the intensive program, and we'll see what happens. Are you willing to do that?
Yes.
Are you willing to do that?
Yes, sir.
And Joe, I want to offer you some help as well. Okay, we're going to stop. I want to thank my guest today, and a special thanks to Margaret Aubin, Program Director of Relationship Lifeline. We will see you next time. All right. We're going to work on it. Okay? We're going to work on it. Don't miss a chance to work on it. Okay? All right.